Good afternoon, students. In the previous video, we discussed about the role of judiciary and the critical evaluation of fundamental rights. In this lecture, we discuss about the National Human Rights Commission. To guarantee the citizens' right in India, in 1993, the National Human Rights Commission was established. So, when did Human Rights Commission established? Then in 1993. And what is the motive? The motive is to guarantee the citizens' right in India. The National Human Rights Commission is chaired by a retired judge or the retired Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. It monitors observance of human rights in the country and point out the violation of rights from the people and affected organization, if any. If there is any case regarding the violation of fundamental rights, then this institution observe that case and try to find out the cause and represent its report before the court. Next, that is Directive Principles of State Policy. राज्य के नीति निर्देशक सिद्धांत. We discussed complete information about fundamental rights. Next we discuss about DP, SP. Then we discuss about fundamental duties. These directive principles of state policy contained in Part 4 of the Constitution of India contains 20 directive principles of state policy. These are listed from Article 36 to 51. The directive principles constitute a very comprehensive social, economic and political program for a modern and welfare state. So what is the motto behind the directive principle of state policy? That to promote the welfare of the citizen, set up economic equality and the modern state. These principles emphasizes that the state shall try to promote welfare of people by providing them basic facilities like shelter, food and clothing. These are the main our fundamental needs like the food, shelter and clothing. So in directive principle of state policy, there is a provision that these fundamental needs must be fulfilled by the state of a country. Next, directive principles of state policy are taken from the Constitution of Ireland. So from which country we have taken these DPSPs? From Ireland. And Dr. Bhimrao Ambedkar described these principles as novel features of Indian Constitution. So this is about the directive principle of state policy. Let us discuss that what are the goals and what are the policies regarding the directive principles. So what are the goals? To promote social, economic and political justice amongst people in India, to work for common good, not for individual, for all, to raise the standard of living. How can we raise the standard of living? By providing a good healthy life, education, health facilities, etc. and etc. We can improve the standard living of our citizens. To provide for equitable distribution of services and to promote international peace. These are the 5 major goals of directive principle of state policy which contain in Part 4 from Article 36 to 51. Policies: Uniform Civil Code, that one person, one nation, one law. Prohibition of consumption of alcoholic liquor. Promotion of cottage industry and prevention of slaughter of useful cattle. Useful cattle, it means those cattle which are useful for human beings. They don't kill by any person in slaughterhouses. And promotion of village panchayat. So these are the policies. By these policies, these goals are achieved by as per the directive principle of state policy. There are some principles which are given in this list. Mainly the directive principle of state policy has 4 types, like the socialist principles, like the Gandhian principles, like the liberal democratic principles and the principles relating to international relations. So we can classify our directive principle of state policy mainly into 3 parts, but almost 4 types of directive principle of state policy are mentioned in our Indian Constitution. So some of them like to minimize inequalities in income, status and opportunity, कि आर्थिक असमानता को कम करना, ये एक बहुत बड़ा उद्देश्य है, ये एक तरह का हमारा राज्य का नीति निर्देशक सिद्धांत है। टू प्रोवाइड एडुकेट मीन्स ऑफ लिवलीहुड टू ऑल, दैट एवरी पर्सन हैज इक्वल अपॉर्चुनिटी टू अर्न देयर लिवलीहुड, टू प्रिवेंट concentration of wealth in a few hands. It is the basic root evil in our country, not in our country but in the world, that the world's money is concentrated in a few hands. To provide equal pay for equal work for men and women. It is also mentioned in the directive principles. To provide equal justice and free legal aid, to organize village panchayat, to make provisions to provide right to work, right to education, old age assistance, etc. To make provision for just and humane condition of work, to provide a uniform civil code, compulsory education for children. All these are like 20 directive principles are mentioned in the Constitution of India. Next, we discuss about that what is the difference between the fundamental rights and the directive principles. Fundamental rights, first of all, these rights are enforceable. It means that these rights are enforced by the judiciary system of India. The Supreme Court and the High Courts can issue writs to enforce fundamental rights. We have already discussed 5 writs which can be issued by the Supreme Court or the High Court for the protection of the fundamental rights of Indians. Second, fundamental rights provide civil liberties. These are negative as they prohibit the state from doing certain things. Yes, because on the when we discuss about the critical evaluation of fundamental rights, then we discussed that on the name of the security of the nation, we can suspend these rights and we can stop the state from doing certain things. They aim at establishing political democracy in the country. These have legal sanctions. They promote the welfare of the individual and they do not require any legislation for their implementation. If a person is born in our country, India, he has automatically all the fundamental rights. Now we discuss about directive principles of state policy. Directive principles are non-enforceable in a court of law. It means that if any person or the government can try to violate these directive principles, so we do not go into court for force to effect these directive principles. डायरेक्टिव प्रिंसिपल्स प्रोवाइड सोशो इकोनॉमिक जस्टिस, सामाजिक और आर्थिक न्याय की स्थापना करना, ये किसका उद्देश्य होता है, ये डायरेक्टिव प्रिंसिपल्स का ऑब्जेक्टिव होता है. दीज हैव लीगल एंड पॉलिटिकल सैंक्शंस. दे प्रमोट द वेलफेयर ऑफ द कम्युनिटी, नॉट इंडिविजुअल. इट एम्फेसाइज ऑन द वेलफेयर ऑफ कम्युनिटी. दे रिक्वायर लेजिस्लेशन फॉर देयर इम्प्लीमेंटेशन and they call upon the state to take some initiatives for the people and they are positive in nature. So these are the most important difference between the fundamental rights and the directive principles which are mentioned in our Indian Constitution. Thank you and have a nice day.